Hello everyone. Today we are going to build a retirement nest egg based on the following assumptions. So the file that I provided you for this exercise contains two worksheets. One is labeled instructions and questions. The other one is labeled my retirement account, where we are going to do all the calculations. So let's read the instructions. You graduate from college on your 22nd birthday and start working at a gross annual salary of $44,000. You expect to retire 43 years later on your 65th birthday. Now, each year of your career, your gross annual salary increases by 3% a year. We are making that assumption. We are also assuming that you save 10% of your gross salary and contribute to your retirement accounts such as 401k. We are also assuming that your employer matches your contributions to your retirement account dollar for dollar up to 5% of your salary. Now, since you contribute 10%, okay, every year your contributions to the account will be your 10% plus the 5% that your employer is contributing. Now, the money in your retirement account, we are going to assume that it's always going to earn a return of 6%. So return is a more general term for the benefit you get from investing. So when you invest in an interest-paying account, the money that you make is called interest. But if you are investing in other things such as stocks or bonds, then the money that you make is called a return. We are also going to assume that all contributions are made to your retirement account on the last day of each year. So they do not earn a return in the year they are made. Okay. So you don't earn any return on the money that you deposit uh, because you're depositing at the end of the year. So you start making a return from the following year. The worksheet My Retirement Account contains tables created to help you perform the calculations involved in building a retirement nest egg. In this exercise, you're supposed to populate the cells of the table by inserting the appropriate formulas, and I'm going to walk you through those formulas. Once you have built the model, you're going to answer the following questions. So there's 1, 2, 3, there's 12 questions that you're going to answer. So the first question is, how big will your retirement nest egg be at age 65? So let's perform the calculations. Let's go to the My Retirement worksheet. And on the left-hand side, you'll see that I have created this green table where we are going to make note of the assumptions that we are using in our model. So for example, the assumption is that you're going to contribute 10% of your salary every year to your retirement account. Your employer is going to match your contributions up to 5% of your salary. Your rate of return every year is going to be a constant 6%. You're going to get a 3% raise every year on your salary. And your starting salary is going to be 44,000, right? So let's go to the blue table where we're going to actually make the calculations. So each row in the blue table corresponds to a year in your career. So your first year in your career is at age 23 and so forth. And your last year in your career, your 43rd year is at age 65. So we are assuming that you start at a salary of $44,000. So I'm going to insert a reference to the cell containing your starting salary. Okay. And then every year you're going to get a 3% raise. So I'm going to insert a formula to calculate your salary with a 3% raise. So your salary in the second year is going to equal to your salary in the previous year plus, okay, a 3% raise from your previous year's salary. So this expression in the parenthesis calculates your raise. Okay, so it's B7, 3% of F2, which is your previous year's salary. So your salary in year 2 is going to be 45,320. Now, your salary in the subsequent years is going to be calculated similarly. You take the previous year's salary and add a 3% of previous year's salary. So I'm going to copy this formula all the way through. Okay, but there's one part of the formula that I don't want to change, and that is this B7 part. I always want it to come from this cell. Okay, so I'm going to make this an absolute reference by inserting these dollar signs. And once I've done that, I'm ready to copy this formula in the rest of the cells. And remember how we copy formulas? We grab this copy handle on the lower right hand corner. Okay, so I'm going to click once and hold that click and then drag the mouse pointer all the way across the cells where I want the formula to be copied, which is through the last cell that contains my salary for the last year of my career. And then I'm going to let go my click and it's going to copy this. Okay, so I just want to make sure that it's copying the right formula. So I'm going to double click on the cell that contains my last year's salary and make sure that it's using the correct formula. So it's taking F2043, which is previous year's salary, and adding to it B7, which is 3% multiplied by F43, which is previous year's salary. So perfect. That's how I wanted the formula to be copied, right? So when I retire at age 65, okay, as a result of getting a 3% raise every year, my salary in the final year is going to be $152,270. Okay, so we populated the salary column. The next column, we need to calculate our contributions. Now that's easy because our contributions are always 10% of the current year's salary. So in my first year, it's going to be 10% of my first year's salary. So I'm going to contribute 4,400. Now in the subsequent years, the formula is going to be the same. So I can just copy the formula, but I want to make sure that the part of the formula that has to do with this fixed number 10% is an absolute reference. Okay, because I don't want this part of the formula to change. I always want it to come from this cell containing the 10% figure. And once I've done that, I can copy that formula. So once again, I use the copy handle. So once I grab the copy handle, I'm going to click once and then hold that click and then drag the mouse pointer through all the cells that I want the formula copied to. And once I've selected those cells, I let go of my click and it's going to copy the formula. So in the last year of my career, I can see that my contributions are going to equal $15,227, which are about 10% of my salary of $152,000. Okay, now my employer is going to contribute 5% of my salary. So I'm going to insert an expression to calculate that. So 5% multiplied by my salary. So B4 into F2. And I can already anticipate that I will want to make B4 an absolute reference. So I'm going to insert these dollar signs. Okay, enter. And then once again, I'm going to copy the formula, okay, by clicking the copy handle, holding that click, and then, okay, selecting all the cells where I want the formula to be copied. So in the last year of my career, my employer is going to contribute $7,613. Okay, very good. So if you need to pause at any point, feel free to pause the video to replay the part that you haven't quite been able to follow along, and you should be able to do that if you replay it a few times. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to calculate the return. So we are assuming that we are always going to earn 6%, okay, on the amount that is in our account. Now recall that the assumption is that we contribute at the end of the year. So in the first year, okay, we're not going to have any money sitting in our account in that year because we made our first deposit at the end of that year. So there's going to be no return earned in that first year. Okay. Now we'll insert a formula for calculating the return in the subsequent years. But first, let's see how much our year-end account balance is going to be in the first year. So we started the year, okay, with nothing in our account. Then we made a contribution of 4,400. So that's going to be in our account, okay. So G2 plus our employer made a contribution. So the amount in H2 is going to be part of our account balance, and plus any return we might have earned. Now we didn't earn a return, okay, but if we had earned a return, that would be part of our year-end account balance. So these three numbers would be part of our account balance. So we're going to end the first year with $6,600 in our account, okay. Now in the second year, we've had some money sitting in our account, right? So how much money was sitting in our account in the second year? Well, okay, it's whatever we ended the previous year with, okay, plus what we contributed to our account in the second year. So, okay, I made a contribution of 4,532. The employer made a contribution of 2,266. So we're going to earn a return on all that amount, and we're going to earn a 6% return, right? So we're going to calculate that. So it's going to be 6% multiplied by, okay, so how much money was sitting in our account? We're going to add all that up in parentheses. So we started with the previous year's account balance, and then we add, okay, what I contributed in the second year plus what my employer contributed, okay, and then I will close the parenthesis. So in that second year, I'm going to earn a return of $803. So at the end of the year, how much money will I have in my account? Well, let's start with, okay, what I had in my account at the end of the previous year, because remember, I'm not withdrawing any money, so whatever is in my account, okay, stays in my account. So we start with what I ended the previous year with, plus what I added this year in my account. So I made a contribution of 4,532. Okay, then my employer made a contribution, and then I earned a return, which was added to my account balance. So all that is going to be part of my year-end account balance. So I press enter. So I'm going to end the second year of my career with $14,201 in my account. Now the formula for calculating the return on and year-end account balance is going to be the same for all subsequent years. Now just one change I need to make in the formula for return on. There's B5 reference. Okay, I want to make that an absolute reference. I'm going to insert these dollar signs, press enter. Okay, and now I'm ready to copy. I can actually copy both the formulas for return on and year-end account balance. So I'm going to select both these cells simultaneously by clicking on one and then dragging across to the other. And then I'm going to copy the formula from both these cells by grabbing the copy handle, clicking and holding the click all the way down to the last year. Okay. So once I've done that, I can see that my year-end account balance is 2020. Okay. Now, the rate of return on my investment, let me just check if I have done it correctly. Yes, your retirement account's on a 6%. Okay, yeah, it is. Okay, so at age 65, when I retire, my account will have $2,020,984, right? So this is what we call your retirement nest egg. It's the amount of money that you have in your retirement account when you retire. Okay, this is what you have available to spend in your retirement. Okay, so it's a pretty cool $2 million. Okay, so let's go and answer the questions regarding this model. So the first question is, how big will your retirement nest egg be at age 65? Well, that's that $2,020,000 number. So we can just insert a reference to the cell that contains that value. So I'm going to type equal to, then I'm going to go to my retirement account, and then just click on the cell that contains the value that I want. Okay, and once I do that, I'm not going to go back. Okay, I'm just going to click enter and it'll bring me back here. Okay, so my retirement nest egg is going to be 2 million. Okay. Create a line chart that shows your account balance over time and insert the chart on the right here. So we're going to go to the retirement account, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, so I want these values, okay, of the account balance to be displayed in the line chart. So I'm going to select, okay, this entire column, and the way you select an entire column is clicking on the column label here. Okay, so the entire column is selected. I'm going to go to the insert ribbon here, and then I'm going to find the button that has to do with charts, and you will see that there's this button for line charts, and there is like a down arrow, and I click on it and it gives me options for line charts. So I click on it, and voila, here is a line chart that shows my account balance over time. I'm just going to move it to the side, and actually I'm going to copy it. I right click on it and click copy, and then I go to the worksheet where it's supposed to be, and here I'm going to paste it. Okay, so here it is. So this is, oops, too big. So this is my account balance over time. Now, it doesn't look very nice, so I'm going to make certain changes. One is that I'm going to make the font on the y-axis bigger, so I click on the y-axis and then I just increase the font size so it's more legible. These ears, okay, I want to make those bigger as well. Okay, so, And then the chart title, I want to make it bigger as well. So I'm going to select that, make it big. Okay. And I want readers to know that on the x-axis, these numbers represent years. So I'm going to go to on chart design, or add chart element, axis titles, primary horizontal, and it's going to give me a title here. And I'm going to double click on it, which makes it editable. And I'm going to type years. And I'm going to increase the font size. So, looks good. Okay, so the next question is, in year 5 of your career, how much will your nest egg grow from your contributions, your employer's contributions, and the returns that you earned? So we've already calculated these numbers in the table, so we just need to insert references here to the appropriate cells in the table. So for example, your contribution equal to, and then we just go to the table, year 5, okay, year 5, is here. Your contributions are in this cell, 4,952. So I'm just going to click on it, press enter, and that value is being brought here. Okay. Similarly, for my employer's contributions, equal to 2,476 number, enter, and how much returns I earned. 333 number. Okay, so we got all those numbers. Okay. So in the last year of your career, how much will your nest egg grow from your contribution, your employer's contributions and returns earned? So once again, equal to, but this time we are looking at the last year. So it's 15,277, enter. Employer's contribution equal to 613. The returns earned is going to be this $114,000. So get this, just in the last year of your career, you're going to be earning $114,000 in returns. Okay, so you can see that the amount of returns you earn, okay, it really goes up over time. At what age will your retirement balance begin to grow more from the returns earned than the combined contributions made by you and your employer? So if you look in the table, this column I gives you the returns that you earn, okay? And your employer contributions are given in this two columns, but we don't have a column where the two of them are combined. So we're going to insert a column where we're going to calculate the combined values of your and your employer's contributions. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to select the column, okay, the return on column, and then I'm going to double click. And when I do that, this menu opens up and one of the options is insert. And as soon as I click insert, a blank column is inserted to the left of the return on column. Okay, I'm going to label it, okay, total contributions. And the value of total contributions is going to be equal to my contributions plus the employer's contributions. Enter. And we can just copy this formula all the way down. Okay, so this column is simply the total of your and employer's contributions. So The question is, in which year is your return on more than your total contributions? So as you can see, in the beginning years, your return on is smaller than the contributions. Okay, but at some point, the return ons are greater than the total contributions. So that happens in year 14 of your career. Okay, this is the first year where your returns begin to exceed your contributions. And after that, every single year, your returns are greater than the contribution. So after this year, your nest egg is growing more from your returns than from your contributions. So, okay, that important year where that begins to happen is year 14 in your career when you are age 36. So age 36. Okay. Now, what is the total of your and your employer's contributions over your working life? Okay, so that would be given to us by the sum of all the contributions in each year. So basically, we need to add up the value of all the cells in this column, column I. We can use the sum function to do that. So at the bottom of the column, we can use the sum function to add up the values in this column. So over your working life, you and your employer contributed 564,193 to your account. So we can insert a reference to this cell where the answer is supposed to go. So equal to, okay. What is the total returns earned over your working life? So basically we need to add up the value of all the cells in the return on column. Okay, so once again, at the bottom of the column, we're going to do that with the sum function. We're going to select all the return on cells. So about 1.45 million. So when the answer is supposed to be, I'm going to insert a reference to this value. Okay, so what percent of your nest egg at age 65 is made up of the returns you earned? So we are supposed to calculate the value of this returns as a percentage of our total nest egg size. Okay, so that's given in the cell that contains the answer to question 1. So we're going to calculate that by dividing our returns, and division in Excel formulas is given by this forward slash. So K36 divided by the value in this cell. So 72%. So get this, 72% of the money that you'll have in your account at the end of your career is going to consist of the returns you earned, not the amount that you saved, but the returns that you earned on your savings. Okay, so big chunk of what you're going to have is going to be the result of returns. Okay. At what age would your nest egg become 50% of the size? It would be at age 65. Okay, so 50% of this size of $2.2 million. At what age, okay, do you reach 50% of this size? Okay, so 50% of 2.2 million is about, so here's what we can do. We can create a new column here, okay, and we can call it current year account balance as a percentage of final year nest egg size. Okay. Now all we're going to do is we're going to, in this column, calculate, okay, how much our current year account balance is as a percentage of the final year account balance. Okay. So it gives us a fraction, but to convert it into a percentage, okay, we just simply go up here and click the percentage sign, and it does that. Right now it's giving me 0, but I can increase the decimal points to see what it's like. Okay. Now before I copy the formula, because I want the final year account size to be always K44, I'm going to make that an absolute reference. Okay. And now I can copy the formula. Okay. So I can see that between year 33 and 34 of my career, my current year account balance, okay, reaches 50% of my final year account balance. Okay, so somewhere between age 55 and 56, okay, I'm going to reach 50% of my final retirement account size. Between ages 55 and 56. So, you know, just 10 years away from my retirement, I would have barely managed to reach 50% of my retirement nest egg, which means that the other 50% is going to be generated in just the last 10 years of my retirement, of my working career, right? So the thing with exponential growth is that, okay, the biggest growth takes place at the end years, right? So, okay, you go from 1 million to 2 million just in the last 10 years, while in the first 30 years, you're going from 0 to 1 million, and the last 10 years, you go the other 1 million, right? So it really shoots up towards the end. Okay, so the early years when you're looking at your account, it doesn't seem like it's growing a lot, but it's going to really grow a lot as time passes by. Okay. Would it take for your retirement account balance to go from 80% to 100% of your final size? So looking at the values in the column that we generated, okay, we go from 80% of our retirement nest egg to 100% in just the last 4 years of our working career. Okay, so from ages 62 to age 65 is when you're going to generate the last 20%. It's going to take only 4 years for that to happen. Okay, so the next question asks, the government gives a tax break to those contributing to a retirement account, and suppose the tax break is equal to 18% of the amount you contribute to your retirement account. So 18% is the tax you would have had to pay on your income. Okay, but because you contributed to a tax deferred retirement account, you don't have to pay that 18% tax on the amount you contribute to your account. So what is the total amount of taxes that you saved during your working life as a result of making contributions to your retirement account? Okay, so it's going to equal 18% into, okay, whatever you contributed to your retirement account, okay, over the years. So in order to calculate how much you contributed to your retirement account over the years, we're going to add up, okay, we're going to use the sum function, all the cells in your contributions column. That's 67,703. So I saved these many dollars in taxes as a result of the tax break. Okay. Now suppose you'd contributed 11% of your salary rather than 10% each year. So make a copy of the worksheet, my retirement account, to redo the calculations with the new assumption. What would be the size of your nest egg at age 65? So I'm going to make a copy of the worksheet. So the way you make a copy of this worksheet, my retirement account, is by double clicking on the worksheet name if you have a Mac, or right clicking if you have a PC, and this menu is going to pop up, and one of the options in the menu is move or copy. Select that. Select the worksheet you want to copy and make sure that this create a copy box is checked. Click OK, and you'll see that a new worksheet has been created. The default name is the same as the worksheet that you copied with the number 2, but I can edit it. So what's the question that I was answering? It's going to be, so I'm going to name it after that. Enter. Okay. Now all I need to do is change the number in this cell from 10% to 11%, because all these contributions make use of the value in this cell. So if I change the value in this cell, the contribution amounts in the table are going to change accordingly. Right? So I do that and you can see the values have changed. Okay, my contribution values have changed. As a result, my returns have changed, year-end account balance have changed. And now my new account balance, okay, is $2.15 million. Okay, so I have more in my account at the end of my career as a result of contributing 11% rather than 10%. So here where it asks what is the size of my nest egg, we'll type equal to, go to the new worksheet I created and click on the cell that contains my nest egg with an 11% contribution assumption. Now, increasing your yearly contribution rate by 1% increases the size of your retirement nest egg by how many percent? So to calculate this, I'm going to find first the difference between my new nest egg and the old nest egg, which is given here, and divide it by my old nest egg size and press enter. Okay, so it's increased the value of my nest egg by 6.67%. Okay. These two questions, the following questions, we will do in class. So I think this is enough for now. Thanks, guys.